guys, welcome to my channel. Thanks for returning. Hopefully this is the first video I post since my last, because I want to enter back into the YouTube world on a correct note. Do you know what I mean? So I'm here to talk about Black Lives Mattering and why they matter, how it's been for me, because it's been weird for me as someone who lives in the UK. I live in the UK first of all. I don't live in London. I don't live in a massive city. So for me, I feel like it's a bit different. I don't know if anyone else that knows where I live and is in the same situation, maybe in the same sort of kind of, you know, mindset as I am. So I don't even know where to start. This is not okay. Let me just say this first of all. My views are developing. So as I'm looking at more stuff, as I'm, you know, being made aware of more stuff, my views like change and all that kind of stuff. I'm not one of those people that are strongly opinionated unless it's to do with the word of God. Because I mean, that's the only real firm foundation there is in life to me. So if it's not to do with the word of God, which is Jesus Christ, then you can, you know, you can change my mind if I feel like.
Of a color aroma.
Anyway, yeah, so being someone that doesn't live in London, and I don't live in a big city either. I live in quite a quiet-ish area, so I don't, as far as I know, it's not as crazy here or as obvious. I will say it's not as obvious in terms of racism and stuff where I live. But I do want to talk about it because I don't want to come back on YouTube and then not having said anything. I just feel weird about it. Like, I don't want it to look like I've just brushed it off and stuff like that when I've been very vocal about it on my other like social media. Because it's not something that, it's not a trend, and it's not something that you can just pick up and drop. And I definitely feel like this whole thing has shifted my perspective. Let me just say, first of all, yeah, initially, I'm not gonna lie, I know racism is everywhere, but I just thought it was worse in America. And in some ways it kind of is a little bit, because in America it's like anyone can get it, whereas here, I don't know, it's just different. But yeah, I'll say this. Okay, I'm hot. I'm really sorry if I'm showing too much skin, but I'm really, really hot. Okay, my thoughts. Okay, so my first sort of thought of racism and all this stuff, I would say, started with Mark Duggan, which was in 2011. I don't want to dishonor anybody's deaths or anything like that, so I've actually pulled up my MacBook here and I'm gonna just read a little bit, not a little bit, but just kind of give an idea of the tiniest bit of background. So Mark Duggan was a British man. He was a black man. He was 29 and he was shot dead by police in Tottenham on the 4th of August 2011. They had stated that the officers stated that they were attempting to arrest Mark Duggan on suspicion of planning to attack and that he was in possession of a handgun. So he died of a wound to the chest. Anyway, where I live, outside of London, they were trying to start riots as well, so we weren't allowed to go out. My mum was like, you're just going to go to work, you're going to come back home. Was I even working? No, I wasn't. Sorry, my mistake. Mum was like, just go to school and come home. Don't be going anywhere because of the riots, right? So Mark Duggan was shot dead by the police in 2011. Okay, then a relative of mine, he wasn't a close relative, but he was close enough for me to go to the funeral and everything like that, and know the guy that actually died is a distant relative, but it's a relative of a close relative, if that makes sense. He died whilst in immigration custody in the UK, and his death was not necessary in my eyes, and so that's another one that triggered me. Another one was when Sandra Bland got killed in 2016, and they tried to say it was a suicide. And then from then, 2015 to now, I don't think that there had been like apart from the movies and stuff that came out and all these things, I can't remember any deaths that were significant to me. So anybody's killings that stuck in my head, and I was like, I'm not gonna forget that. So for me, it was Mark Duggan, the relative in the UK, Sandra Bland, and then now George Floyd. Okay, so that's kind of like a timeline for my, like, the way my mind has been in terms of Black Lives Matter. The Mark Duggan one, at the time, it was weird for me at the time, because for me, at that time, my mind wasn't thinking, oh, they shot an innocent black man. My mind was, okay, so they thought he had a gun, which means he must have been in a gang. Bearing in mind, I don't live in London. So for me, this whole thing was, oh, it was just another gang member that got shot. Well, it was kind of mad anyway, because police here don't shoot people. As far as I know, the British police do not shoot people like that. They tase people, they batter people, but shooting people is something that is, like, for me, I was like, whoa. Like, it must have been crazy if they actually shot someone. Because I didn't even know until then that they actually held guns. And actually, after that point, I was actually a bit scared of the police in the UK after Mark Duggan got killed. So for me, I was, on one hand, I was like, he must have been like a really bad guy to have been shot. But on the other hand, I was really surprised that the police had even shot anybody in England. And then the relative that was in detention, that was something else that really upset me, because I felt like, I don't want to go into details because I haven't spoken to anyone about this. All I will say is that what happened should not have happened. He should have been taken better care of. And I feel like just because he wasn't a citizen of the UK, that they didn't really care about him. Whereas I'm sure the NHS is built on care for everybody. Even if he would have had to have paid for it, because he's not a citizen of Britain, he should have been able to receive the care that he needed to sustain life. But no, he died in the hands of the immigration officer. The detention centers are very, 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 very bad. Very bad. And it's his death, it's still haunting to today. Like, it's just... Anyway, then there was Sandra Bland, who died before I was going to start uni. And that again was just a mad one. Like, the video of it came up on a TL a couple weeks ago, and I had to take some time away because it just really brought up some emotions in me that I was like, that one, Sandra Bland was the one that really made me, like, I don't know, that's what stopped me in my tracks. So the Mark Duggan didn't. Mark Duggan's one, like, planted a seed. The relatives one was like, that's suspicious. Something isn't right here. Then Sandra Bland's one was like, okay, she's in America, but it was mad. Okay. And then for her to just show up dead after all her videos about, you know, Black Lives Matter. We're not saying all lives don't matter, but da-da-da-da-da. To me, it was just mad. And now there's George Floyd one. And I don't remember, as I said, I don't remember anything in between, any significant ones that made me continuously stay on that path of, like, Black Lives Matter and stuff. But I do feel like George Floyd's murder was a tip of an iceberg, where Sandra Bland, the relative, and Mark Duggan, amongst many, 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 many other black people, were just kind of bodies piling up. And George Floyd was at the tip. I knew in America the police brutality is mad. Like, when This Is America came out by Donald Glover, I think it was in 2017, everyone was like, yeah, this is a bop. And I watched it, and I watched the reviews, and I watched what it meant, and I was like, yeah, I'm agreeing with this, because I can't even put my thoughts into words. Like, it's just so mad. Like, what did we do to deserve to be killed on sight? I was reading about, I think her name is Tatiana. She was aspiring to be a doctor, and she was shot in her home when she was playing video games with her nephew. Just because the neighbour called to just check up on her, because she thought that her house had been broken into. He thought the house had been broken into, and so he called the police to just do a check, and she ended up dead. Now, that police officer handed himself in, like, within 3 days before he even got arrested, so that was an interesting outcome. But others, people have had to march. People have had to request that something is done. So for me, I'm going to bring it to the UK, because I think in America, it speaks for itself. We don't have to ask questions. We don't have to say, what did he do? Because regardless of what these people did, it did not cost them, it shouldn't have cost them their lives. People were playing video games. People were going for jogs. People were newly moved in neighbors. There was a guy who newly moved into a new neighborhood. He was like a tech developer or something like that. And his neighbor killed him because he was black. That's all in America. We need to ask. George Floyd, I've seen people bringing up the dates of his past crimes that stop at 2017. 13 years ago, he decided to stop and change his life, right? And yet people feel the need to bring up, okay, fair enough. Those that may have been hurt by his actions back then, I think, okay, let them talk. Let them say whatever. You can't try and silence them, because at the end of the day, when celebrities die and people that they may have raped or assaulted, they may be a star in your eyes, but you know, unfortunately, everything has a consequence, and that person's going to be hurt forever, and you can't silence them. You can't tell them to stop talking. Let them talk. But for those who have not been affected by that person's past actions, I don't know why it's being brought up. I don't understand, because as far as you knew, all he had done was allegedly had a fake $20 bill that he paid for some cigarettes for, or allegedly was selling cigarettes. Allegedly. None of that. Are you telling me that if I was to go into a shop today in America, pay with a fake $20 bill, and come out, the police would tackle me down and kill me, and that would be okay? Think about it. So when you're about to justify, when a black person gets killed in America and you want to ask, what did he do? Think about what you're going to say. Just think about that. Maybe change, at least ask, what is the story around it? Why is your first thought, what did the person do to be killed? What does anybody do to be killed? What does anybody do to be... Who deserves to die? Don't even answer that. I want to bring it to the UK, because I think, as I said, America speaks for itself. America's madness speaks for itself. Nobody needs to speak for America. You can see it. If it wasn't already obvious, you wouldn't have thousands of people marching, all races. You wouldn't have that. You just wouldn't. The UK is not innocent. For me, it took this year for me to realize, because for me, again, I just had it in a perspective of, yes, there are racist people in the UK, but you can just, you know, just carry on. And there's microaggressions in the office, but I don't even want to call them. Someone said, we don't even want to, I think it was in the Real Talk Real Work podcast that Aura was speaking, and she was saying, somebody said something about not calling them microaggressions, because they're not microaggressions. It's a macro, or I think it was even a tweet. It's a macroaggression. What you said is very mad. It's a big aggression to me. It's very offensive. It's not a microaggression. An example I have is when I used to work in a certain shop, I'd come in with my long black wig, which was my mum's, because I came in with my long black wig, and the next day I came in with my hair like in an afro puff like this, and the guy was like, "Oh, you look so ghetto now with that hair," and I was just like, "Excuse me?" He went red. He said it again. I was like, you're lucky that it's me you're talking to and it's not somebody else, because they would have slapped you right now or called HR or something. For me, my personal beliefs, yeah, I don't believe that anybody who calls themselves a Christian and harbors hate towards people in general, let alone because of the colour of their skin, they need to check themselves, because that is anti-gospel, that is anti-Christ. Having prejudice against people for any reason whilst calling yourself a Christian is anti-Christ. You know? Did you know that? Because Christ is for all. And so if you are being selective, that is anti-Christ behavior. Okay? Cool. Secondly, UK. Why is it that, God bless her soul, Madeleine McCann died, I think it was 11 years ago? Or sorry, she was kidnapped or went missing 11 years ago or so. And millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds have been put into an investigation. And I can imagine as a family, when something happened to your child, you would go to the ends of the earth to find out what's happened to your child. Okay, fair enough. But if it's coming out of taxpayers' money, do you not think it's fair for Shukri Abdi's family to request for that same sort of vim towards the investigation, for Christopher Kapessa's family to go towards that same kind of vim? Is it not? Why have their cases been closed? Shukri Abdi was pushed, I believe, into a river, and they found bite marks all over her body, and they tried to say that because she came from an African country and it's so hot there, she must know how to swim, and so she must have jumped into the water to cool down or something along those lines. Is it not madness? When you think about these things, is it not, do you not find that questionable? Do you not find that questionable? Christopher Kapessa, I don't know what the story is, the ins and outs. I think it's again another water situation where he was being bullied, and I think he again was pushed into water and he couldn't swim. He died. Madeleine McCann's parents left her in a room with her siblings with alleged sedatives, drugs in her body, and then she was taken from the room. She was in the safety of a room that her parents had paid for and was taken out because her parents thought that she was safe there and alone and all that kind of stuff, and they just gone a few steps down to chill with the friends or whatever, and she was taken. Okay, these kids, their lives were taken from them. They were pushed, and the case was closed. I don't even know when, probably days, as non-suspicious. Make it make sense. Shukri Abdi's school has since changed their name and rebranded, and it's come to light that that school actually has a lot of issues, like racial issues. Universities have students that make racist jokes in their group chats. It gets brought to light. The universities don't do anything. People have, I remember on Twitter, there was a girl that said something like her roommates, I think they either put lots of bananas outside of her door or did something like proper racial, like racist. I'm not even gonna say racially charged. It was racist, okay? Like, and nothing was done. What are we paying £9,250 for? What are we paying tax money for one kid to be looked for? Meanwhile, these little black and brown kids are not getting the justice they deserve. Is it because Shukri had only been in the country for a year? Is that why? Then you look at the Windrush scandal. Oh my gosh, that made me cry. I'm not even going to go into it too much because I still feel emotional about it. And I know there was more than just those Caribbeans that were affected. There definitely must have been Asians affected, Africans affected, a lot of people. So, but why is it specifically the Caribbeans that have had a scandal? Like, think about it. Okay, I don't want to go too much into it. I don't want this video to be me explaining things, because I have questions more than I have answers, honestly. Then you have the media. I personally went down to the protests on Sunday. I don't know what day it was, and they were really peaceful, really cool, really calm. It was my first protest, and I was a little bit scared because there were like helicopters flying overhead and all these things, and I was a bit scared because I'd seen the day before that there were some horses doing a madness and all these things, and I was a little bit scared because I wanted to get home safe. My mum had told me the day before that the reason why she doesn't want me to go out and stuff is because she doesn't want me to become a closed case that doesn't have any answers, basically. So that's why she gets scared when I go to London and stuff. But it was fine for when I went. And it's just that I feel like there's a small handful of people that are using the Black Lives Matter movement to release unquenched anger towards white people and the police in general. I don't think they're angry at the injustice. They're just angry at the police because their brother who was a criminal or their friend who was a criminal has been put in prison for the things that he's done. And I think that's wrong. And you can shoot me for this, but I think that's wrong. Like, something that is being put in place for us to gain equality and to create an anti-racist space, you are using it for your own agenda. I don't like that, because then it's kind of mixing up the reason, what the cause is, okay? You're using that as a scapegoat to get rid of your own frustrations. and you're not thinking about the consequences of what you're doing. Police are inciting violence and they're inciting disarray, and you're biting into it. You're taking the bait. You're taking the bait. They want you to get mad, and you're getting mad, and you're throwing things, and you're fighting them, and you're kicking people in public. I won't say much on that. I think everybody has feelings towards these things, and I think that's fair enough. But it's when we are all trying to show a united front towards something, and you are coming with your own agenda. I think it's something to think about before you actually do something. I think you need to think about the cause and the reason why we are doing certain things before you go ahead. And if you're using Malcolm X as a you know, example, do some research. Do some more research on him first. Because as far as my personal knowledge goes, it was the civil rights movement that gained more than what Malcolm X did. As far as I know. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Feel free. So before I went to the protests, I wasn't 100% going because obviously I was a bit scared. And obviously there's coronavirus outside. So I was like a bit, you know. There was a day at work that I must have been reading up on it. I'd been reading up on it for like 2-3 days straight. One of my colleagues was like, yeah, I don't agree with what's going on. It's not right. It's not fair. You know, like kind of like, you know, not really saying much because what can you say? You know, it's not like he's black and you can say whatever. Like you could tell he didn't know what to say, which is fair enough. But you could tell that was also that he empathized, and that was enough for me. I'm not one of these. If you're an ally, you're an ally. I'm not one of these don't praise people, don't praise a fish for swimming kind of people. To me, if anything that is good and positive, like I'm happy to reinforce that. I'm not gonna. And if you're not one of those people, that's cool as well. Like whatever goes for you, that whatever floats your boat. But that's just me. So I was like, you know, I was happy with that to know that he's an ally more than, you know, someone that is gonna be challenging it. On the other hand, I had another colleague that was more of a challenging sort of perspective. And for me, as somebody who had only just about come to terms with what is really going on and what had really happened, it was a bit much. So when he started asking me questions of the tone that he was asking me in, I just said, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get into this conversation with you because I know that you're the kind of person that argues to be right, and I'm not a tough cookie. I'm not a tough cookie. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a tough cookie. So I didn't want to talk about it and kept pushing. And I was like, fine. Because he said something like, one guy dies and the whole world goes mad. What else did he say? You know, just, I don't even remember what he said because it was just all mad to me. Like, he was like, that's what set me off, was one guy dies and the whole world goes mad. That's what like really stuck in my head. And then another thing that I'll get into a little bit later. So he kept pushing, and I'm like, fine, you know what? It's not one guy who dies and the whole world goes mad. It's not, because it's not one guy. It's not. Either on the same day or a few days before Breonna Taylor was killed. Even throughout these protests, there have been a few people that have died. There definitely would have been loads of black people that died through this year before George Floyd. Definitely. Hands down. Like, there's just loads of people. There are names upon names. It's not just one guy that has died that has set the world mad. No. George Floyd was a tip of the iceberg. So as I'm trying to explain to him that it's not one guy that goes mad and the world goes mad, and it's not that he is a guy in America and we are people in the UK, that we are all black, I got emotional, okay? And I'm sorry, but I cried. I felt stupid, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want to talk about it because I knew I would cry, because I'm not a tough cookie, I'm a wet wipe. And then you could tell he's holding me in a softened a bit. And I thought, okay, let me try and like, you know, I feel embarrassed. So I just stopped talking about it. So this is why I don't want to talk about it. And then he said something like, there are children that are dying of hunger, but nothing's being done for them. And I'm just like, So I'm gonna touch on Yemen, because Yemen is the one that is crazy to me right now. Yemen has been in that position for years. I think it's a war between Saudi Arabia and Syria. I'm not too good at geography, but I know they're in between two fighting countries or something like that. And Yemen was used as a country for weapons to be imported into. And so I believe that country has, I think Yemen's been sanctioned, which means they're not getting anything from outside in. They're not getting any imported goods. They're not getting anything in. If you see the pictures, like, it's literally skeletons and skin, okay? And it's really, really, really unfortunate. I don't know what's being done for Yemen. I think actually they get UNICEF, but UNICEF is about to pull out from there because they have no more money for Yemen. But what I said to him was, what's going on in Yemen is very unfortunate, and I honestly do pray healing for Yemen and other countries that are in the hands of powerful countries having a play about and causing, you know, issues for other people. Black people don't have UNICEF, you know, funding them to create opportunities. We don't have governmental things in place to prevent injustice. We shouldn't need to have that, actually, because we don't live in third world countries. Yemen needs something like that because it's now a third world country. We live in Britain, we live in the USA, and we're facing injustice because we're black. And so no, it's not that someone has died across the pond and I'm upset about it. It's the fact that we live in a place that we call home. Those people have no choice in America. They don't have any choice but to call America home because they were taken from their homes. Their ancestors were taken from their homes. Not even ancestors. Their great-grandparents were taken from their homes in Africa and forced across the Atlantic Ocean and brought to America to build the country on their backs, build undergrounds, create an economy. And then, I don't know what they had planned. I don't know if maybe after the work was done, they would shoot them all, or if they thought they'd be slaves forever. I don't know what the end goal was. But obviously, it didn't go to plan. And so now, they keep black people under the thumb, under racism. Okay? And so, I didn't say all this because I was busy crying. But this is what I wanted to say. Now, when I said I was crying, yeah, I wasn't like boo-hooing because I didn't want people to look at me. So I just kind of put my head down on my desk and I was just kind of like, you know. But yeah, things have been weird. It was a weird 2 weeks for me. And I feel like he kind of told a lot of people, because then I realized that same day people were looking at me after I gone on break and came back. People were asking me if I'm okay. And I have not said one word to anybody in the workplace about this. And they may see this video now and then they'll know. It's whatever. But I had determined to just keep that between me and him and then have a thing where like we just talk about it at some point and get over it. But I feel like that's been tarnished now because I feel like it's just been spread all over the office. But it's cool, whatever. But yeah, like I just felt so emotional about it. And it really, it's that thing steered my 2 weeks. It's really steered my 2 weeks. Now at the time, I had already been reading a book. I was reading Queenie. I was reading a book, so I just kind of got more into my book and then picked up another book. I just stopped talking to him basically, and we became a little bit cool. Like I started giving him sweets again, sharing my food and stuff, but I haven't talked to him about it, and I've just made my mind up that I'm not going to talk to him about it because I don't have all the answers and I don't have enough gear in my head to say this is why you shouldn't be racist, this is why it matters, this is why Black Lives Matter, this is why it's not all lives matter until Black lives are able to matter. It's not we're all humans, we're all one race, there's no black race, there's no white race, because it's being black is not a biology anymore. It's not about skin color anymore. I mean, the skin color is the surface of the issues. It's a sociology. And I'll get onto that because I'm going to read something at the end of this. I don't know what I've talked about. I think I've talked about everything. I wanted to talk about how churches are handling it. I don't even have any more words to say. Some people want black supremacy. I don't think I agree with that. I mean, God made all different kinds of colors and creeds and all these things for a reason. I don't think he made anybody to be the superior of anybody. So for me, I say Black Lives Matter because I want equality. It's like, these are the other lives and these are Black lives. And until they come up here, the world's issues won't be resolved. All lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I've run out of words to say, but I think I've pretty much said everything. You know, I feel like I came out of I almost became a coon. I almost became a coon. But with the help and grace of Twitter and perspectives, I'm always open to perspectives and hearing what everyone else like thinks and stuff. And yeah, I just felt like I need to address this before I even continue to make any more videos. I'm just gonna end it on here. I don't think I said anything of any significance. What I do want to say, this what I'm going to read here, is that the reason why I say black is not a biology, but it's a sociology, it says it here. When Obama was made president, this is a perspective. So lots of folk, mostly non-black folk, say Obama's not black. He's biracial, he's multicultural, he's black and white, anything but just his black, because his mother was white. But race is not a biology, race is a sociology. Race is not a genotype, race is phenotype. Race matters because of racism. And racism is absurd because it's about how you look, not about the blood you have. It's about the shade of your skin and the shape of your nose and the kink of your hair. Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass had white fathers. Imagine them saying they were not black. Okay? Cool. Now, this part here, I'm gonna just talk about it in my book review. I'm not gonna read it because this is getting really long. But yeah, what I want to say is this. I'm open to understanding more about blackness and Black Lives Mattering and things. And I hope that those of you that aren't in America or aren't in Africa, sorry, those of you that aren't in Britain or in America or in any country where black is not the predominant skin color, you won't get it until you come to this side and you live here for a long period of time. You just won't. It will just be confusing to you. You'll just be like, but why? Only way I can make it even remotely relatable is the fact that you have come out of colonization, you've become independent, but these big countries still have you under their thumb. You have China coming and you have China coming to Zimbabwe and South Africa, and you have them teaching your children Chinese. And I think I saw a video or something saying that they beat them if they don't learn the Chinese. And that's just mad to me. You come to my house and you're beating me for not learning your language. Thanks for listening to my ramble. This has gone way too long. But it is what it is, man. Sign the petitions. Think about stuff. Question yourself. I've questioned myself. You know, I'm trying to really look at the UK more. Because although, yeah, American stuff really is important, it really needs to stop. I can only help so much where I am. Yeah, see you in the next video. And if you have any ideas of what you want me to like film and stuff, drop them down. I'm definitely taking things into consideration. I've seen certain stuff, and yeah, I will be acting upon your suggestions. Okay, that's what I'll say. And no, not all my videos are going to be in tree. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.